everybody. So we all know that La La Land is the big talk of the year and that it'll probably win Best Picture, and there you go. And I enjoyed it. It's got great dancing, it's got great score, great cinematography. It's definitely a throwback to the feel and the style of old school musicals. I particularly like the beginning. It's a lot of fun with the scene in traffic, and I think those two stars have great chemistry. But I have kind of a unique take on the ending, and I thought it would be kind of interesting to talk about, kind of just share my theory and see what other people thought of it. I actually think that people accept that I think that Whiplash is a cautionary tale against ambition and unbridled desire, I guess, and goals and things like that. I actually think that La La Land is sort of a similar message, but in a more fluffy coating. I think it's actually kind of a tragedy. And I'm not saying that as a bad thing. I think tragedies are a really important part of movies and stories, and so I think that that's powerful. It actually, to me, is much more resonant if I think of it as a tragedy compared to thinking of it as just a pure romance. It starts off the movie with Ryan Gosling's character Sebastian telling Mia that jazz is an ever-moving, ever-changing, it's never the same twice, and he is completely uncompromising in his loyalty to jazz at the beginning. He won't even change the name that he wants for his jazz club. He is very specific about this dream of his life. Well, as the story goes and he falls more and more in love with Mia, he starts to realize that his dreams aren't as important as he once thought. He starts placing other things ahead of what he thought he wanted. And that all leads to him joining this band. He joins the band, and the leader of the band, played by John Legend, tells him that he needs to modernize, basically, that the jazz will only sort of reach the old, and that they need to reach the younger sound. And at least in my eyes, when he's playing that music, he's smiling. He seems happy to me. He seems to be a little bit, it takes him a little bit to warm up to it. But by the end of that long song that we get of We Can't Start a Fire, I think is what it's called. Anyway, that we get that long song. And he, by the end, is kind of warming up to it. And you do get the photo shoot, which is kind of embarrassing, and you tell that's really not his thing. But as far as the music, and then we get to the point where he has the big dinner with Mia. So he's very excited to see her when she enters the room at the dinner. And he's bright, he's excited, he's surprising her, he's telling her, in my opinion, a joyful way about the band and about the stops and about Boise. And she's the one that hasn't had that transition, hasn't moved on from his earlier dreams, and so she thinks that he is being a sellout, when in reality, he's actually showing her that he loves her by doing all of this. That's why he's made her this dinner. That's why he's so excited to see her. And that's why he wants her to come to Boise. And, the fact that he may not love the music as much as he loves traditional jazz, it actually doesn't matter as much to him as he would have thought at the beginning of the film. But it matters to her because she still hasn't kind of grown up. And so she makes a big to-do about it, and they have their fight. Because she wants him to stay the same. And so the relationship kind of goes from there. When you have a relationship, the thing that has to happen is you have two people with dreams and goals and ideas, and you have to combine as a couple and make one new set of new dreams and new goals and new ideas. Okay. And that's just what has to happen. You can say, oh, well, that person's settled. No, they didn't settle. They went for something new and different as part of a couple and a couple's dreams. Okay. And that's what I think the Ryan Gosling character has understood and realized. And that's why when she gives up, she leaves, and then he gets the call and he is thinking of what will make her happy. And so he goes and gets her and takes her to the audition. And he says that, you need to give it 100% because he knows that's what will make her happy. He has transitioned from being a selfish person to being a selfless person. And I love the book My Life in France, which Julie and Julia is based on. Half of it is based on that, the Julia Child part. And in that book, in real life, Paul Childs gave up his career as an artist, as a talented artist, in order to be a bureaucrat for the State Department so that Julia Child could become Julia Child and she could write her cookbook. And her dreams became his dreams because he loved her. And that's what the Ryan Gosling character, that's what Sebastian has learned, is that her dreams have become his dreams because he loves her. And I think that when Mia is at the club and she, at the end, and she sees the vision of what her life could have been like, you notice that one of the key parts of the vision is that Sebastian goes with her to Paris and Sebastian supports her in Paris and they have that experience. So if she had been open to the fact that he had changed and the fact that he would be basically the Paul Childs of her life, then she could have had this different experience. And she realizes that, and she realizes what she gave up because of her foolish, youthful, selfish ways, and that she could not grow in the same way that Sebastian was able to grow. She wasn't willing to make her dreams their dreams as a couple, and she saw what her life could have been, and that made her sad. And but they had to move on, and they smiled and they left. And he ended up having his club, but I think for him, it's a tragedy for him too, because he knows he could have had, if only she had chosen differently, that they could have had something much better than a club. Because in the end, you talk to anybody who's involved in creative things, it sounds so great to be a photographer, to be a musician, or to be a actress, but in reality, it's really not that different than any other job. In reality, the nuts and bolts of it is you go, you show up, you work hard every day, you do exhausting things, and it's just not as glamorous as people think. I mean, and I think it's interesting that the one shot they have of her working as an actress is her going to get coffee, and I think that's sort of Damien Chazelle's way of saying she's basically the same. Like, she's not different than really what she was before, even though she's achieved her dreams. And so both these characters have achieved their dreams, but in the end, it's not as fulfilling, certainly, as what this vision shows their life could have been. And I think that's why we don't really get to see any of her husband. All of those things are there to kind of show us that what she could have had is better than what she ended up getting. Otherwise, they would have shown us more of that, I think. And so we would feel a certain degree of like, oh, well, she got something better, so it's all okay. I don't think that's why he's so vaguely kind of shown. And in fact, I think, is he really that different from the original guy that she's dating at the very beginning of the movie? I don't really think so that much. And so, I don't know, I just feel like it's actually an example of somebody looking back at what might have been and the regret that they chose basically career over love. And they gave up something that's priceless for something that is very ephemeral and does not last and provide lasting happiness. Because in the end, being a jazz musician and being an actress is a job, and it just like any other job. And that's why you have tons of musicians and tons of artists and actresses that, kill themselves and are on drugs, because in the end, it doesn't really satisfy them. It doesn't really make them happy. And so, I don't know. To me, that has much more resonance, and than a sort of a fawning look, and then sort of a glowing look back at a period of life or something. But to me, the idea that there's this tragedy in what she gave up for something that wasn't as fulfilling, sort of the foolish decisions of youth, I think has a lot more resonance, emotional resonance than it would have on just the surface. But that's just my interpretation. That's what I took from it. And so anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out there. Let me know what you think. And I know it's a lot of people will probably really disagree with this, but anyway, that's just my interpretation. And so let me know, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.